You are failing because of you. And I know that is hard to hear. I know you came here looking for a better indicator, a better setup, maybe a different market to trade. But I'm going to tell you something that nobody else is willing to say to your face. The market is not your problem. You are your problem. And until you accept that, completely, honestly, without excuses, nothing will change. You will blow another account, then another. You will change your broker, change your time frame, change your instrument, and you will still lose. So today, we are going to talk about the one thing that actually changes everything. Not a strategy, not a setup, a system for surviving and eventually thriving as a trader. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share with you took me years to understand, and it cost me far more than money. Let me ask you something. How many strategies have you tried? 5, 10, 20? And yet here you are, still searching, still struggling, still watching your account go up and down like a boat in a storm. Here is the truth. Most traders who fail are not stupid. They are not unlucky. They are not victims of market manipulation or bad timing. Most traders who fail are actually quite intelligent people. They have read books. They have watched hours of videos. They understand support and resistance. They know what a moving average is. Some of them can draw beautiful charts. And yet they lose. Why? Because knowing and doing are two completely different things. You can know that you should cut a losing trade. You can know that. You have read it 100 times. And yet when you are sitting there watching your position go against you, you freeze. You tell yourself it will come back. You move your stop loss. You add to a losing position. You do everything you know you should not do. That is not a strategy problem. That is a you problem. And I say this not to be cruel. I say this because the moment you accept this, truly accept it, is the moment your trading life can begin to change. The market does not care about you. The market does not know your name. The market does not know how much money you need this month. The market is simply a reflection of millions of other people's decisions, and your job, your only job, is to navigate that environment with discipline and precision. But most traders cannot do that because they bring fear into the market. They bring greed. They bring their ego. They bring the need to be right. And the market punishes all of those things mercilessly. So what is the solution? The solution is what I call the survival system. It is not a strategy. It is a framework for existing in this business long enough to actually succeed. It has 3 parts, and all 3 parts are essential. You cannot skip one. You cannot decide that one is more important than another. They work together, like a machine with 3 critical components. If one breaks down, the whole thing stops. Let me walk you through each one. The first part of the survival system is money management. I call it the shield because that is exactly what it is. Most traders think about money management as a way to make money. They ask, how much should I risk so I can make the most profit? That is the wrong question, completely wrong. The right question is this: how much should I risk so that I can stay in the game? That is a fundamentally different mindset, and it changes everything. Let me explain. When you are new to trading, or when you are in a period of uncertainty, your only objective should be survival, not profit. Survival. You should be risking so little that even a string of losing trades does not destroy your account. I have seen traders blow accounts in a single day, not because they had a bad strategy, because they risked too much on a single trade, or they overtraded, or they doubled up after a loss because they wanted to get their money back. That is not trading. That is gambling with extra steps. Preservation of capital is the first rule of this business. Not because it is a nice principle, because without capital, you cannot trade, and if you cannot trade, you cannot learn, and if you cannot learn, you will never improve. Think about it this way. A surgeon cannot get better at surgery if they keep killing patients. They need enough successful operations, or at least survivable ones, to develop their skill. Trading is the same. You need time in the market. You need repetitions. You need experience. And you can only get those things if your account is still alive. So when should you be small? When you are uncertain, when you cannot read the market clearly, when things feel chaotic or confusing. Those are the moments to step back, reduce your size, protect what you have. And when should you be aggressive? When you have clarity, when the setup is obvious to you, when everything aligns and you feel that rare confidence that comes from genuine preparation and experience. That is when you press. That is when you increase your size. Most traders do the opposite. They lose a few trades and then they get angry and they trade bigger to recover. That is emotional trading. That is how accounts die. The best traders I know, and I've been in this business for over 2 decades, they do not trade with the same size every day. They read the environment, they read their own mental state, and they adjust. On days when they are sharp and the market is clear, they are present and bold. On days when they are tired or distracted, or the market is grinding and choppy, they step back, or they don't trade at all. That last point is important. Not trading is a position. Choosing to do nothing is a decision, and sometimes it is the best decision you can make. Your job is not to make money today. Your job is to still be in this business next month, next year, in 5 years. The traders who survive long enough are the ones who eventually figure it out. The ones who blow up every 6 months never get that chance. Protect your capital. Stay small when uncertain. Scale up only when clarity is high. That is the shield. The second part of the survival system is methodology. I call it the map, because without a map, you are wandering. Now, here is where most traders make a critical mistake. They think that having more strategies is better. They collect setups like trading cards, momentum plays, reversals, breakouts, mean reversion. They want to trade everything. They think that more tools means more opportunities means more money. That is wrong. More strategies means more confusion. More confusion means more hesitation. More hesitation means more missed trades and more bad trades. It is a vicious cycle. What you actually need is one edge, one setup, one pattern, repeated consistently over and over until you know it so well that you can execute it without thinking. That is mastery. And mastery is what separates professional traders from amateur ones. Think about a professional tennis player. They do not try to play every type of shot with equal skill. They have a game. They have a style. They develop that style over years of repetition until it becomes second nature. They do not think about their forehand when they're hitting a forehand. They just hit it. That is what you need in trading. A methodology so deeply ingrained in you that execution becomes natural. Now, what does that methodology look like? For me, it has always been about reading the market, understanding what price is doing, where it has been, where it is likely to go. Pattern recognition is at the heart of it. Not complicated patterns, simple ones, the kind that appear again and again in every market, in every time frame. And the reason simple works is this. The market is ultimately driven by human psychology, fear and greed. These emotions create patterns, and these patterns repeat. They have repeated for as long as markets have existed. They will continue to repeat. When you study one pattern deeply, when you watch it appear hundreds of times, when you trade it in different conditions and learn its nuances, you build something that no indicator can give you. You build recognition, instinctive, immediate recognition. And with recognition comes confidence, real confidence, not the false confidence of someone who has just had a few lucky trades, the deep, earned confidence of someone who has put in the work. That confidence removes hesitation, and hesitation, as I will tell you in a moment, is one of the most expensive things in trading. So my advice to you is this. Stop collecting strategies. Stop watching videos about new setups. Stop chasing the next shiny thing. Find one edge. Study it until you dream about it. Trade it until your hands move before your brain finishes thinking. That is the map. Simplicity over complexity. Mastery over variety. Now we come to the most important part. And I want you to pay very close attention here, because this is the part most traders ignore. This is the part that most trading education skips over. And it is the part that, in my experience, is responsible for more than 80% of trading failures. Mindset. I call it the referee, because your mind is the one that decides whether the game is played fairly or not. Let me paint you a picture. You have done your preparation. You see a setup forming. It is exactly the kind of setup you've been trained to trade. It is clear. It is obvious. You know intellectually that the right thing to do is to enter the trade, and you do nothing. You wait. You watch. The price moves in the direction you predicted, and you are still on the sidelines, heart racing, telling yourself, "I'll wait for a better entry." And then the trade runs without you, and you feel sick. Does that sound familiar? That is fear. Fear of being wrong, fear of losing, fear disguised as patience. Or maybe this one. You enter a trade, it goes in your direction immediately. You are up. Let's say you're up 2 times your risk, and then price pauses. It starts to pull back slightly, and your stomach tightens, and you close the trade for a tiny profit when your target was 3 times further away. And then, of course, the trade continues in your direction, all the way to your target and beyond. That is also fear. Fear of giving back profits, fear dressed up as taking what the market gives. These two fears, fear of entering and fear of holding, they will destroy any edge you have. It does not matter how good your strategy is. If you cannot execute it with discipline, it is worthless. Here's a line I want you to write down. Put it somewhere you will see it every day. You don't rise to the level of your strategy, you fall to the level of your discipline. Read that again. Really let it land, because it is the truth. Your strategy might be excellent, but if your discipline is weak, you will underperform that strategy every single time. You will miss the good trades, you will cut the winners, you will hold the losers. You will do all the wrong things at all the wrong moments. And then you will blame the strategy, or the market, or your broker. But the problem was never any of those things. The problem was your mind. Now, let's talk about the other side of this, because it is not just fear that destroys traders. It is also hesitation. Hesitation is the gap between knowing and doing, and in trading, that gap is extremely expensive. Think about what happens in a hesitant trade. You see the entry, you think about it, you analyze it again, you wait for more confirmation, and by the time you decide to enter, the optimal entry point is gone. You are now entering at a worse price. Your risk-reward ratio has deteriorated, and you have started the trade already feeling uncertain. And then the trade does not go perfectly, because no trade goes perfectly, and you exit early, because you already had doubts going in. The hesitant trader never gets the full value of their edge. Never. Hesitation is more expensive than a losing trade. A losing trade is just a cost of doing business. I expect to have losing trades. Every professional trader does. Losses are not the problem. The problem is not executing when you should. The problem is exiting when you should stay. The problem is staying when you should exit. These are not strategy problems. These are execution problems. And execution is a function of mindset. So, how do you fix it? You train. You train your mind the same way an athlete trains their body. An elite sprinter doesn't think about how to run when they hear the starting gun. They just run. Their body knows what to do because they have done it 10,000 times. The conscious mind is almost irrelevant in those moments. That is what trading at a high level looks like. The setup appears, you enter. No debate, no second guessing, just clean execution. To get there, you need repetition. You need to trade your setup over and over until the execution becomes automatic. You need to journal your trades and review your behavior, not just your results. You need to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. Because trading will make you uncomfortable. Always. The discomfort does not go away. What changes is your relationship to it. The amateur is controlled by discomfort. They react to it. They exit trades to relieve it. They avoid entries to avoid it. They are prisoners of their own emotions. The professional feels the same discomfort, but they do not act on it. They sit with it. They breathe through it. They execute anyway. That is the referee. That is the discipline. That is the mindset. Let me now share some deeper principles, things I have learned over many years, things I wish someone had told me clearly when I was starting out. First, get rid of the get-rich-quick mindset. I mean this seriously. If you are trading because you want to get rich fast, because you want to make life-changing money in the next 3 months, you are in danger. That mindset will push you to take too much risk. It will make you impatient. It will make you gamble instead of trade. Trading is a long game. It is one of the longest games there is. The people who succeed in this business are the ones who are still here after 5 years, after 10 years. They are not the ones who turned $1,000 into $100,000 in 60 days. Those stories exist. They are also almost always followed by the story of that person losing everything 6 months later. Build slowly. Build consistently. Compound your edge over time. Second, consistency beats intensity. I would rather see a trader make 2% a month every month for 3 years than a trader who makes 30% in 1 month and then gives it all back and more. Why? Because consistency is evidence of process, and process is the only thing that is sustainable. Intensity is emotional. Intensity comes and goes, but a trader who is consistently following a process, executing their edge, managing their risk, controlling their mind, that trader is building something real. 2% a month compounded over 3 years is a remarkable result. But most traders do not think that way. They think 2% is boring. So they risk more, they trade more, they push harder, and they blow up. Small edges repeated consistently compound into massive results. This is not a motivational concept, it is mathematics. Third, you must become mentally stronger than your impulses. Your impulses will tell you to move your stop loss. Your impulses will tell you to revenge trade after a loss. Your impulses will tell you to double your size because you feel sure about a trade. Every single one of those impulses will hurt you. The market is an environment that activates your most primitive instincts, fight or flight. The same instincts that kept our ancestors alive in the wild will get you killed in the market. You have to override those instincts with discipline, with rules, with a plan that you follow even when everything inside you is screaming to do something else. That is the work. That is the real work of becoming a trader. Not learning another indicator, not finding a better strategy. Learning to master yourself. I want to stop here for a moment and be honest with you. There was a time in my trading career when I thought I was good. I had been trading for several years. I had some decent results, and I genuinely believed that my success came from my intelligence, from my ability to read the market, from being smarter than most. And then I had a period, a significant period, where nothing worked, where I seemed to be consistently on the wrong side of every move, where my confidence collapsed, where I started to doubt everything I thought I knew. And in that period, I was forced to look at myself honestly. What I saw was uncomfortable. I saw a trader who was not following his own rules, who was taking trades out of boredom, who was holding losing trades because his ego could not accept being wrong, who was cutting winning trades early because the profit felt good and the uncertainty felt bad. I saw a trader who was being controlled by his emotions, not some of the time, most of the time. And the painful realization was this: my edge had never been my intelligence. The intelligence had always been there, but it had never been the thing that made me money. What made me money, in the periods when I was making money, was discipline, process, the ability to execute consistently. And I had lost that. I had started to believe my own story. I had started to think I was special, that the rules did not apply to me, that I could improvise. You cannot improvise in this business, not consistently, not successfully. That period of failure was the most valuable experience of my trading career because it stripped away every illusion. It forced me to rebuild from the foundation, and what I rebuilt was not a smarter strategy. What I rebuilt was a more disciplined mind. From that point forward, my progress was different. It was slower in some ways, but it was real. It was sustainable. And it was built on something that could not be taken away by one bad week or one losing month. I tell you this not to talk about myself. I tell you this because I know that many of you are in that place right now. You are struggling. You are doubting. You are wondering if you have what it takes. And I want to tell you this directly. The struggle is not a sign that you are failing. The struggle is the education. The question is whether you are willing to look honestly at what it is teaching you. Let me bring this together. The survival system is not complicated. It is 3 things. Protect your capital, stay small when uncertain, scale up when clarity is high. That is the shield. Find one edge, master it deeply, execute it without complexity. That is the map. Train your mind, remove hesitation, execute with discipline. Sit with discomfort. That is the referee. These 3 things, applied consistently over a meaningful period of time, will transform your trading. Not because they are magic, because they address the actual reasons why traders fail. Not strategy, not intelligence, not luck. Discipline, process, execution. I want to leave you with this. Most people come to trading looking for a shortcut to wealth, and they leave broken. Not because trading is impossible, but because they were never willing to do the real work. The real work is not technical. The real work is internal. It is sitting in front of your screen and doing nothing when there is no clear setup, even when you feel the urge to trade. It is entering a trade and holding it to your target, even when fear tells you to exit early. It is taking a loss cleanly, closing the trade and moving on, without anger, without revenge, without drama. It is doing the same thing, the same way, with the same discipline, on a good day and on a bad day. That is the work. And it is the hardest work you will ever do. Not because it requires genius, but because it requires you to be better than your instincts every single day. The market will test you. It will test your patience, your resolve, your discipline. It will find every weakness you have and it will press on it. And if you can stand there calm, prepared, disciplined, if you can look at the market and say, I know who I am, I know my edge, and I will execute it without apology, then you have already separated yourself from 90% of the people who ever tried this. Success in trading is not given to the smartest. It is not given to the most educated. It is not given to the ones with the best strategy. It is given to the ones who survive long enough to deserve it. Protect your capital. Master one edge, train your mind. And above all, stay in the game. Because the trader who is still standing when the storm passes is the trader who wins.